Hey, Ron, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate it. I really look forward to getting into your business and your story and just hearing about what you have going on. So thanks for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just start out by hearing about your story. I think you were in the actuary field before, right? Like early 2000s. Do I have that right? And you eventually got into insurance. I'm curious to hear that story.
So when I left college, I was a high school math teacher and basketball coach. And when you are taking math classes to pursue a profession like that, one of the things they always tell you is if you don't like it, you can always go work in the actuarial world in insurance. And that sounds great, but it's actually a terrible thing to say because those folks get PhDs. But that's what I did. I started on the life and health side doing actuarial work for a couple of different companies that had corporate offices in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Left that to pursue a hedge fund. I worked as a data analyst and worked on the trade floor of a large hedge fund in Fort Worth, and eventually led myself to going, I want to start a business. I have no earthly idea what I can do, but I knew that I understood insurance and financial components as a result of all that work that I did. And so in 2013, I opened a captive P&C agency, sold that off in 2017, started over on the independent side. And over the last 8+ years, we have grown substantially and now do life, health, and property and casualty. People ask me what kind of insurance do we sell? And I always tell them it's easier to we don't do kidnap insurance, and that's about it. That's about the only thing we don't do.
Yeah, that is a thing too, right? Kidnap insurance. That'd be interesting to get into
It
that.
absolutely is.
Very
Yeah.
niche, but there's probably plenty of people that need it. High net worth individuals or family members, right?
Actually, people traveling into other countries that may take their family with them for prolonged periods of time. It's actually a real thing.
Yeah, yeah. So 2017, you said when you started this.
Yes, that's when we started insurance for Texans. The age old statement is if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that's really how a lot of the captive agents think. And I knew that I wanted a whole toolbox to be able to help families and businesses. And so that's why we started over.
Okay, awesome. So how does your actuarial background like influence what you're doing now? Do you think it plays in? Does it affect your thinking and the talking with clients?
It absolutely does. So one of the things that I know based off of that experience in the actuarial realm, coverage that you're never going to use is really inexpensive. Coverage that you're actually going to use, they charge a lot of money for it. So it helps us easily explain to a prospect or a customer why something is important because it helps us identify those items that are really, really important for them.
Yeah, makes sense. So I did, before we started recording, I mentioned your blog. You have a blog that you push out. I think that's really cool. I mean, we work with a lot of insurance agents, but I think very few of them are doing blogs. How does things like doing blogs or doing podcasts, I mentioned, doing your podcast, doing your blog, how has that helped your business? And I guess, do you feel like that generates a good amount of traffic, or how does that work for you?
So over the last 8 years, we have, through the blog and other portions of our website, we have put 1,000 different pages on that website. And what that means functionally is we have an incredible SEO presence. We have, now that things are changing with the AI chatbots, we regularly get prospects from those sources. And it's because they know who we are, they know what we do, they know that we provide good information that people can relate to and understand why it's important. And so it has been the largest driver of our business as we've marched towards $1 million in revenue.
Yeah, that's great. So I think a lot of agents that we work with, they're kind of like prospecting all over the country. And so to play the SEO game, to try to drive traffic on a national basis, it's very hard to compete with some of the really big players. But you've really niched down. You've niched down in a few different things, but one just being insurance for Texans. And then so you're somewhat local, like you're in that state, you're speaking to a certain people group. I think on your website, like you're speaking their language, right? How would you feel? How would you explain the benefits of like finding that niche And outside of, I guess, you already mentioned SEO, like you're producing blogs and content so that your SEO rankings are increasing, and it helps that you're doing it in a specific area versus trying to reach too bad. But what is the role of niches played out, and what kind of niches have you? I kind of know from researching online, but just for listeners, like what kind of niches have you targeted, and how does that work, and what are the values of kind of niching out what you're doing?
Well, so there's an old statement: the riches are in niches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. And really, from an advertising standpoint, when you niche down, you can speak one-to-one to a person. They feel like you're speaking directly to them. If I speak ambiguously and I'm not progressive and I obviously don't look like Flo, she has better hair than me, you're speaking at a global level and nobody may or may not be listening to you. When you get down into the weeds of a particular niche, in the first place we did this, we actually have a federal trademark on the phrase true Texas home insurance. And Texans are a proud lot. They don't like to talk to people north of the Red River. Those are Yankees. We don't deal with them, right? Mm-hmm. And we speak Texan. So it's common for me to use the phrase all y'all, which is the plural of y'all.
Yeah.
And when we speak in that way and we're talking about the things that directly affect homeowners in Texas, they feel like we're speaking directly to them because we're solving their individual problem. That directive now has marching orders and they want to do business with us because we're them. So we've done that on the B2C side, the business to consumer, especially through the True Texas Home Insurance, but we've also done that on the B2B side. So we have driven a lot of business through True Texas Church Insurance. You see a theme here. We've done that with True Texas Education Insurance. So we target early childhood education centers, partially because it's a nice carryover and complement to the church insurance that we're writing, but it allows us to get down at that real granular level and have a one-on-one conversation through the content. So when they get to us, we don't have to sell the trust factor. They already have it.
Yeah.
And that's what has allowed us to have explosive growth.
Yeah. Yeah, you can certainly speak, you're speaking their language, so to speak, I guess literally as well. But you understand their pain points, right? Like instead of going so broad, you're going to a specific type of people that you know what they're experiencing, you know what their challenges are. I'm curious what how it's been working with churches. I haven't worked with any insurance agents that look to help churches. What is the value proposition that you communicate to churches? Like if you're, pitching a church on the services that you can provide, the products.
Well, full disclosure, I'm a pastor's kid. Grew up, I always tell people I was in church before I was born because, my mom was there with my dad every time the doors were open. So we speak that language very well. I also have people on my staff, one person in particular who's a former pastor. He and I were at the same college at the same time. Kevin and I can help our agents understand how to navigate that process because churches typically, there's not a single decision maker. It's a board. It's a process. Right. And there are nuances to that process. There are budget constraints. There are committees. There are committees on committees. And we understand how that works because of our life experiences. So one of our value props is we are you. We know how you operate. We're going to account for that. The other thing is that the property insurance market in the state of Texas over the last 4 years has been a dumpster fire, to be kind.
Really?
It has been a very painful experience. 2 years ago, one of the large church property insurance companies non-renewed approximately 30% of all churches in the state.
Wow.
There has been a contraction of options. There has been ridiculous growth in premiums because of the weather losses. What we have done is gone in and said, hey, answer these questions for us. Let us underwrite this before we ever go to an insurance company. We're going to make sure that they understand why you're a good risk, why you're a good prospect to cover. And then we're also going to give you the different options available that can help you meet the budgetary needs. Post-COVID, there's a lot of small rural churches that have these large properties. The congregation has shrunk. It's dwindled in great numbers. They just don't have the money to cover the whole thing. But if they were to have a total loss, they're not going to need to rebuild the whole thing because their congregation's half of what it used to be. they need half the space. So we talk about where actual cash value and some of these things that have negative connotations can actually be really beneficial for them and save them money.
Yeah, interesting. So some churches, they might not realize, hey, I don't really need to be spending as much as I thought. They can get it for more affordable.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So it did look like when I was looking at your website that you have a fairly good sized team. Kind of maybe talk to me about the team. How have you hired those people and what are their kind of roles?
So we do have a virtual assistant who is offshore, and he has been a great help on a personal line side. I have one person that manages all of the personal lines for us. I actually have known him for almost 30 years. My first teaching job out of college, I walked in and he and I were the only two dudes that were going to teach math at this 9th grade school in the greater Dallas area. We've been friends ever since.
Awesome.
He came back and said, hey, how do I get an insurance license? And this was 5-6 years ago. And so helped him through. I said, you get the license, you got a job. That's all you need to know. So it's a unique hiring situation on that one. Paul does a fantastic job. Brad, who actually has a minority stake in the business, he is a partial owner. I hired him through a Facebook group. He was asking questions, was unhappy where he was. He posted that anonymously. I shot my mouth off and then I hired him, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done. My life and health guy, Kevin, he was a referral from a friend of mine that I was on a camping trip with. Social media has been important in a lot of this. It's helped me hire a couple other folks. We're in the process of actually, both my wife and Brad's wife are going to be doing a lot of the service work. So it's becoming a true family business in that respect. And we've got a new producer that's starting in January who's leaving a captive environment. She knows we understand it, and we're going to put her to work. And that's, again, a social media hire through relationship.
Yeah. For agents that are leaving a captive environment, what are the biggest obstacles you see getting into the independent world and getting them up and going and successful? Because a lot of them leave so much structure, they're used to having X amount of leads maybe come in. They've got the technology set up. They just kind of some of those situations anyway, they've really got a lot of structure around it, and then you go independent, they're like, oh, I got to figure it all out again, on my own. On your team, I'm sure you got a lot of structure, but how do you make them successful when they're coming from that environment?
We start by helping them find a niche, to take it all the way back to your first question, because we want them to be passionate about what they're doing. And if they say, like funeral homes, nobody thinks about insuring funeral homes, kind of like churches, right? But if they have a personal connection there through a family member who worked in that arena, maybe they experienced a great loss themselves and understand the value that funeral home can provide, whatever that is, they can have that passion to go after it. We also help them understand that there needs to be volume to support the income they want to earn. One of the things with the state of Texas, there's 33,000 churches in the state of Texas. We're happy taking just a portion of that as our customer base because it generates a lot of money. So we're trying to help them understand what are they interested in, what are they passionate about? Is there enough volume for it to be a true opportunity? Is the work required? Does it justify the premiums that are going to be paid so that you feel like you're earning the right amount of money? And we walk them through that process. If we're in the niche, it helps us provide more structure as they learn all of the carriers, all of the products, all of the offerings. For sure. Because we've reduced that down to a subset that they focus on. Yeah,
we have insurance agents come to us sometimes, and almost invariably, if let's say they want us to help them run ads, if they're ever like, hey, I want to do some health insurance, I'm going to do some IULs and maybe some final expense, and we're like, please just pick one. Almost invariably, when we've seen agents try to do that, they end up failing at all of them. So it's like, get really good at one of them and then add it in. Of course, your agency, you provide a lot of stuff. For a new agent, obviously it aligns with their skills, their passion, their experiences, whatever is where they may fit best. But like of all the lines, all the different kinds of insurance that your group helps with, what do you think is the easiest for a new agent coming in to learn and to be profitable with?
So part of that's going to depend upon their background. If they're coming from that captive environment that you mentioned, it's very likely they were working personal lines, especially on the P&C side. home and auto, umbrella, just all the things that a family would need. If they're coming from a captive life or a captive health, it's easy to start there because now they realize it's the same sales process, but I have options.
Yeah.
And just having options is a big deal. So we
yeah.
try to start from a base of knowledge that they already possess. If they're coming completely clean into the industry, we really try to slot them in with basics. So that can always start from personal lines on the P&C side. And because really commercial policies, they're the same as personal lines policies, just more nuance and complications, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Same thing with health. If that's something they're interested in, honestly, the ACA is a really easy place to start because a lot of it's black and white. You've got the metal plans.
Yeah.
Helping families understand what their total cost of risk is. It's not just the monthly premium. It's the monthly premium plus what do they have at risk if something happens. And so we try to narrow them down in that.
Yeah. And then like, how do you drive, like if they're wanting new business, like I said, we work with a lot of agents that are just like, I'm going to buy leads or I'm going to have someone help me, run my own ads. How do most of your agents generate new business?
So there's a handful of things we do. Number one, we're going to supply content that's going to help drive new business to them through our website. That's part of our value proposition to them.
Okay.
Along with that, we're going to give them a playbook to use on social media. It's something that I used even before I was doing all of the website and content work. We help them understand how to build a viable network, mostly referral network, not just an audience, but a referral network that can help drive business to them. And then we also help them use some old school techniques like networking meetings, chambers of commerce, if that's something they're interested in. And we're still using direct mail at times.
Okay. So few agents will ever want to leave their office, but going to some of those events can be really fruitful. I mean, meeting someone, showing up, meeting someone face to face, and building relationships. I mean, that's time tested, right? That's going to work, but a lot of agents don't seem to want to do that. What do you think the value of social media, doing social media content is for agents?
So the value for agents in the social realm is about subject matter expertise and credibility. And those two things engender trust. And that allows you to be present in a lot of places if you do it right and you do it well. But it also allows you to be seen as the go-to for whatever that niche is, for whatever your specialization is inside of the insurance world. And some people can do it with funny memes. I have two friends, one in Arkansas, one in Utah. They sell insurance using just ridiculous memes, but it's their personality. It's who they are. I have another friend who does middle market business through LinkedIn, and he is a subject matter expert in the middle market niches he wants to attract, but he's also driving bigger conversations around how to be a professional, how to do these things well. So it allows you to be who you are in the places where people can see you.
Yeah.
And it's understanding how the various platforms work.
How long do you think, like if you have an agent, they're like, here's our social media strategy, we want you to do this. What kind of timetable do you give them before you like, you're going to have to do it consistently for this amount of time before you start seeing results? Did I lose you?
We always tell them it's going to be a 3 to 6 month ramp up.
Yeah.
And the reason we say that is you've got to accumulate people, right, that you're being connected with, but you also have to accumulate that trust and that expertise that is going to be given to you. It's not delivered in a week. This is
I think that's super sound.
From an organic standpoint, it's 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's sound advice. It's not if somebody says, "Hey, we're going to get you a presence, and you're going to be getting all this warm, all these warm leads in 3 weeks." That's just not going to happen, right? It's more of a long game on that. But it can turn into a really, it's way better to be getting referrals than to be buying leads all the time.
I completely agree.
You've already built that trust, so they're coming over to you with some level of trust. When you're buying leads, they're still often, that's still kind of cold traffic, Yes, they've raised their hand saying they want help, but they might not know who you are. So,
and the biggest differentiator there that I always tell them, those referrals, those people that are coming organically through those kinds of channels, your probability of a sale is 2, 3, 4, 5 times higher than it is from somebody that you've just bought a lead. In the P&C world, and I assume that the life and health lead world is the same, that lead you get from that vendor is realistically probably going to be sold multiple places. That person's probably putting their information in multiple forms online. And what happens is you may be the third, the eighth, the 16th person that's tried to bomb their phone. And if you don't have long-term follow-up, your win percentage out of those leads is almost nothing. If it's coming organically, you're likely the only person talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing that happens is, someone on social media clicks on an insurance ad, Facebook, let's say. They say, oh, this person, Ron, he really likes home insurance ads, homeowners insurance, or he really whatever, auto insurance. And it's like, let's show him more of that, And you get those people that click on 5 different ads, and now you're competing with all of them. So we could talk about speed to lead.
Not going to answer their phone either, right? Like by the time they click on 5 of those, and they've got all these people trying to reach out to them, they just quit answering their phone.
Yeah, for sure. And then they're annoyed. They're wondering why you call them. That happens a lot. You mentioned a minute ago that you've done about $1 million in revenue. When you say that, are you talking about like annualized premium? Like, are those commissions that come in, basically?
Commissions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. We are closing in on that mark.
Awesome. That's for this year, 2025, trying to end the year strong. Okay.
Yes.
How long did it take you to get the agency that far?
It has been a steady climb since 2017, but 3 years ago, I joined a marketing and business owner mastermind that was completely outside of insurance because I knew that I needed to think differently than others. And since that time, we've seen jet fuel on the growth the last 3 years. We've grown approximately 260% over the last 3 years during what most people say is the hardest market of the last 50, meaning that retention was tough, sales were tough, and we still are where we are.
So what do you think you've been doing right to get that kind of growth?
The big thing has been the niching, for lack of a better phrase. When we took the commercial side of the business deeply into niches and we put guardrails around, can we do this, but should we do this? And the answer is often no, because it's wasting a lot of time. It's greatly increased our ability to produce for those prospects and clients at a very high level. And that has produced substantial growth from a referral standpoint of people we've taken care of.
Yeah. So a lot of it's referrals, huh?
The organic online presence coupled with the referrals has really done it.
Yeah. So I imagine, you've been trying to aggressively grow it. You said about 260% growth in the last few years. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, as you look into 2026, do you have like any new initiatives or plans? Like, what are your goals for 2026?
So we're actually going back to some old school techniques. One of the things that we've done in the last year, actually put together a book about how to properly insure your church.
Oh, okay.
And it's story driven. It's based off of real life. It's based off of the things that we see. And we're actually mailing those out to prospects.
Okay.
We're physically shipping books.
Love that. Yeah.
So we
have no shortage. You got 33,000 churches, right?
What's that?
Yeah, there's no shortage of people to mail to with 33,000 in the state of Texas alone.
That's right. And so our digital presence confirms who we are. And now we get to say we wrote the book on Texas church insurance. And it's a way to stand out from the rest of the crowd. And what that's allowing us to do is get in front of people. I can't drive all over the state. It's too big, right? I can't always get somebody to respond to an email or a phone call. There's gatekeepers in place for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But if that book shows up in a metallic blue envelope along with a letter that says, hey, check this out, let me know what you think. We've also, we've got that church insurance podcast. So they get a postcard a couple of weeks later. It says, hey, not everybody reads. Check this out. And then we follow that a couple of weeks later with another letter that is prompting them to look at what a property insurance checklist should include. Well, now we've got multiple places where we've reached out to them. We've provided value. We can call and now get past a gatekeeper. That's one of our big initiatives for this next year.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love the thinking outside the box. If more people did that, they would see definitely a lot more success. There's costs money to print the books and to send it out, but that's going to hit people a lot different. Like everybody's doing kind of the same old methods, right? Nobody's putting together a book and sending it out. So a huge opportunity there. Do you see it? You doing that outside of the state of Texas as well? Like I'm sure you have licenses other places, but are you going to branch out? Do you think eventually as well?
So we do have licenses in other states. We have a second brand that can be leveraged for those other places, and we are headed there. We've got to get some things nailed down internally first because I want to do it well. There's a lot of people that get, 20, 30 licenses in all these states, and they don't have a cohesive plan to market in all those places. And they end up spinning their wheels and wasting a bunch of time, wasting a bunch of money. And so we're trying to do it strategically to make sure that we do it well so that we can provide value to the people we're trying to serve.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just from a branding standpoint too, you've built out insurance for Texans, so it'd almost be like starting a new state-based, identity, right, that you could build upon. Yeah, I imagine there's opportunity there. I think that's really good. That's some insights that I think we work with one agent in particular in Utah. I'm in Utah too, by the way, but he goes to a lot of the different events and he gets so much business. He's sponsored events and things like that, but he just puts himself out there. And I think that really goes a long way, right? It just going out and trying new things, testing new things, hitting people from different angles. And as you're showing, it's paying dividends, can't rely on the same old thing all the time. So you mentioned earlier, you went to that conference or whatever on marketing to kind of get I think too, and we try to help that too with our clients, but like a lot of people, they might be in their organization, right? Their insurance organization, and they're just kind of learning from people in that organization, but like going out and actually hearing with like, hey, what do car salespeople do? Or whatever it is, solar people, how do solar people sell? Like learning best practices from all over. I imagine that pays dividends. Would you say that's the case in what your exposure to studying other things?
Absolutely. So my wife would tell you that I'm a curious tinkerer. I'm constantly trying to look for a new idea that, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not going to come up with everything. I'm not Richard Brunson. I'm not going to be the person who invents the next, whatever, as far as advertising goes. But if I can understand what makes people tick and how I can, I don't want to say exploit that, but how I can use those things that make them tick to the advantage of making sure that they're taken care of well, that's where I can be highly successful. And so talking to other people who are selling to folks, that are advertising to folks, that are using new tools to help find people, to communicate with people, what can I take from that helps me serve people well?
Yeah, definitely. And I know you're pretty forward-leaning when it comes to technology and stuff. How would you say technology has benefited your business?
So everybody loves to talk about AI. We've been using it on the content side inside the business for more than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with what Jasper AI was back in the day, it's been around more than 5 years. We were using that early on. We've used many tools with it baked in. One of the things that we're using right now is an insurance-specific AI model that helps us do a lot of work faster where policy documents are concerned. So we can lay down, if you give us your current coverage, if we have even a brief description of your business and your industry, we can quickly show you what gaps you have exposed from a coverage standpoint.
Well, that's great.
We can go, we can take that to our underwriters, to our brokers, to our direct carriers that we work with, and we can say, hey, this is what we found, this is what we've got, this is the supplemental, this is the application, the accord forms, whatever it is. What can you do for me based off of all of this information? We can then lay that down side by side in a proposal. AI is doing all that for us. We just have to clean it up and check it and put our lipstick on it. And now we're doing that much quicker than the person down the street. We're
Yeah.
using it to find lists of people that we can communicate to about that insurance need that they have. We're using it to craft letters and offers and sales pages and all of those things. And it's allowing us to do more faster.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, not necessarily losing all your personal touch, but like just empowering you to make probably more informed decisions and recommendations, and essentially help more people, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about helping as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, as we start to wrap this up, Ron, I'd love to hear like your advice for maybe someone looking at the insurance agency, or maybe a new agency owner. If someone wants to start a new agency, what kind of advice would you have for someone who's getting started?
Run. No, a joke. If someone's looking at starting an agency, there's really a small handful of things that I look back were key to success. Number one, you've got to be relentlessly hungry. You have to pursue new business all the time, no matter what. My oldest daughter is 25, and when she was a teenager, I asked her if she wanted to have dinner out that night instead of eating at home, and she said yes. And I said, "Okay, where would you like to go?" I was trying to empower her, and she said, "I don't care where we go as long as we go to Dallas." And we lived on the Fort Worth side of DFW, which is a major metro area.
Yeah.
And Dallas was going to be an hour to an hour and a half drive, depending upon where we went. And I said, "Okay, why is that?" And she goes, "Because I don't think you're going to know anybody there." And you have enough conversations, even if you're in a metro area, you're always going to know somebody. That 3 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon kicks in, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have that relentless hunger to talk to people. The other thing that I would say is that you have to be willing to advertise and experiment. Most people think, I'm going to open a business, I'm going to put a sign up, and people are magically going to come find me. And that's one of the dumbest things ever. You have to do something so that people can know who you are, why they should trust you, and why you're an expert. And without doing those things, you will not be successful.
Yeah. Great advice. Very true. Great stuff. Well, anything else you want to leave us with? People can find you insurancefortexans.com, right? Do I have that right?
That is our website. And, if there's someone in need of insurance, if we can't do it, we'll get you connected to somebody that can. And if you're an agent looking for help, I'm always open to have a conversation with someone.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Ron, and best wishes into 2026. I hope we stay in touch, and you can let me know how your marketing campaign goes with the book. So that's so out of the box, and I love that idea. So love to hear about the results down the road. But thanks again for being on here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it.
Yep. I'll talk to you later.